You gonna record this baby?
There we go. We good to go?
Yep.
Cool. Hey, Nation, thanks for joining. We launched this company about 9 months ago, and it's been years and years in the making. We didn't want to start until we were ready to go full speed. And so I'd like to start out by saying, hey, thanks for your patience on some of these rescheduled meetings. We're getting a ton of inquiries, a ton. Honestly, more than we were expecting. And so we're building the company fast. We're bringing on clients fast. And here is the first webinar with one of our very own clients, Aaron Mitchell. I'm going to go ahead without further ado and introduce him. It's a little long, so I'm going to read it. I didn't memorize it. Dr. Mitchell is owner and chief medical officer of Mitchell Family Practice. He owns and operates 3 separate clinics and has grown a small town clinic from 2 providers to 10 providers within the last 3 years. Aaron has a passion to lead other physicians in navigating the maze of value-based care and taking back what each physician rightly deserves for the work and sacrifice they make.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll touch on that. We'll touch on that. He also takes pride in workplace leadership and training and professional development. He serves on the board of a local accountable care organization, and he is the medical director of several local medical-related companies. Aaron serves on medical mission trips abroad and strives to be a servant on many levels. He is a proud father of 4 children and married to a beautiful redhead and loves to visit the national parks in his family RV. You know, I just want to start by saying we had a call. He pulled over his RV. We had a call. Obviously, he's a client of ours, and we had a call with him, and he pulled over the RV. His wife is rolling down the road, and it's just really cool to see the relationships we're able to build and the families that we're able to press into, and then ultimately bring you to light, Aaron, because you have so much experience and so much knowledge. And, you know, we're bringing on, they start as inquiries, we have meetings, and then they join as clients. Aaron's a client of ours. We can't do this without you guys. DocNation, yes, we provide a whole bunch of services. And quite frankly, we've been doing those services for 15 plus years. So we're really, really good at those. But the whole goal here is to create a union, to take back the power that doctors should have. I was just talking to this group before we jumped on, and there's not a lot of prep work in this webinar. There's just a ton of experience. And we were talking about a neighbor of mine who has a terminal illness, and how the respect for physicians, both from administration, but then also the general public, is not there until it's a life or death situation. And then all of a sudden, you guys are put where you should be put, which is in a respectful light. You know, I'm 5 days out from LASIK eye surgery, and I work with doctors every single day. And you can't just go from college to being able to cut someone's eyes open and give them vision like that. It's sacrifice, it's pain, it's anguish, it's 100 hours a week, it's living poor for a while. It's really, really struggling through a bunch of mental challenges. It's a mentally draining path, a draining journey that very, very few ever reach. And so DocNation exists to represent the general population of doctors who are quickly losing the voice that a doctor should have. I'll just reiterate that 5% of administration is made up of people with the experience of the front lines of a doctor, right? And 95% of them are business people who are focused on the almighty dollar, and the almighty dollar that goes to administration that doesn't trickle down to the physician at all. And so without further ado, I just like to welcome Aaron. And Aaron, just add a little color to you and your family and your life's mission, man, because it is one that is spectacular.
Awesome, Reed. Thank you so much. And we got Anthony on and Justin. Just want to give them a shout out. Good to see you guys. Good to see you, DocNation. And I am a Arkansas boy. We previously had another speaker on here from Arkansas. It was one of the first sessions in there.
Yep.
Enjoyed hearing her talk. And so I got to tell you, you just had your LASIK done, and you can see clearly, but I can tell you that over the past few months, my eyes have also been open to several things, especially in the business world of medicine. So just kind of to give a brief overview of who I am and where I come from. I've been a doctor now for 10 years. In the first 6 years of this is post-residency, been out of residency for 10 years. The first 6 years I was owned by a local major hospital system, and actually had a fairly good relationship. Still do, still really do. We talk to a lot of them, major metro area right outside of Memphis. I'm in the Arkansas side. And so enjoyed my relationship with them, but we slowly drifted apart towards the end of that 6 years, just when decisions started to be made about work and different things. And that led me to open up my own practice. And I thought it was absolutely crazy. I had no idea what I was doing. I literally needed help in everything. Yeah. How do I set up the bank account right?
Yep.
It was just really, really hard.
Yep.
Didn't know what I was doing. And so when we got it open, we have had amazing success ever since then. And I've been able to lean on experiences being employed on both sides of the aisle for private practice and being hospital owned. And so where did this whole conversation come to in DocNation? To give everyone a backstory is today's topic of conversation is a contract catastrophe. And so what do you get when you have a contract that does not go right? And this contract actually had nothing to do with my former contract being employed. It had to do with the contract that was formed when I was part and am still part of an accountable care organization. Now, what is that? There's a lot of doctors that are going to be on this webinar today, and some people just don't know what accountable care organizations are.
Right.
There's lots of them out there, and chances are, if you're listening to this, you're probably involved in one and you don't even know it. And that's the problem. That's the problem here. Accountable care organizations are really just these provider-led networks that get everybody together, and they use data, they use population health, and they take all these factors to improve patient outcomes. And in the end, there is something called shared savings. So if you do everything you're supposed to do according to your contract, you get extra money. Hey, and that's what makes the world go round. And so these accountable care organizations were formed just loosely through some of the Congress and Medicare, starting all the way back in the late, maybe 2006, 2007 range, and then really came into form about 2012 with President Obama. So there's lots of different ACOs, accountable care organizations, that are out there. There's around 500 of them in our nation, which include Medicare, and it's roughly about 500, a little bit under that, and it covers around 13 million lives in our country. And commercial payers are on the other side of that. So there's probably another 1,000 that are with commercial payers. So the goal of care going in the future is to take all of these patients and put them in these buckets of accountable care contracts all over the nation. And it's to reform how we think about money and think about treating a patient, and then the value that we can hopefully share when there's a shared savings on the back end. All right, so kind of the nuts and bolts of it here. We signed this contract that this former hospital that I was with, they were part of an accountable care organization, and they said, hey, Mitchell, you actually do really, really, really well. We like you. We want you to be a part of our organization. And so they invited me in. I kind of said, oh, yeah, all right. I'll kind of ride on these coattails. I'm going to use good processes of a hospital and hopefully going to get some shared savings on the back end.
The red carpet's rolling out for you there, isn't it?
Oh, man, they did. They really did. They said, we really like the way you operate your clinic. Now, we don't want to hire you anymore. We want you to leave our whole clinic practice. It had to do with some location issues. But we still want your knowledge. We still want the fact that you treat your patients well, that you meet all those quality care gaps and measures and everything that they say that you have to do as part of these care contracts. And so they said, come on, be a part of us. And I said, absolutely, I'm there. So everything went great for the first year. We're rocking and rolling. We're part of it. COVID hits. And not many people really maybe understand about money during COVID, but nobody went to the doctor during COVID.
Yeah.
Almost no one. Almost no one. So now we have Medicare, we have all these commercial plans and everything, and they actually saved a ton of money and expense.
That is where insurance companies learned how to make money, was during COVID. Because we shut down procedures. No one went to the doctor, and all of a sudden, if you look at the graph of how much money insurance companies made right around COVID, it goes straight up. And that's where, that's why we get all these denials down from prior authorizations. Is they're like, hey, if we don't pay, we make a lot of money, and COVID was proof of concept.
Oh man, they killed it. The insurance companies did really, really well. And here we are, private clinics, just like many that are listening on this phone call, myself, we are struggling to make it. Like
So patient who needs the help, dying, not feeling well, whatever it is, needs the help. Doctor who's the only one that can provide that help. Administration can't do anything about it. Insurance companies can't do anything about it. The two important factors here, losing, right? Yeah. And so the insurance companies they strengthened, they got smarter and smarter.
And then the best part is they insurance companies raised everyone's premium and blamed COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though taking care of a patient in the ICU even is much less than doing any kind of procedure or surgery. So they didn't mind taking care of COVID patients, and they were getting a bunch of money. The hospitals didn't mind either, because they're getting a bunch of money from the government for every COVID patient they took care of. So it really was a change in medicine that unlike any other. So it's interesting we talked about to bring that up.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. So all these insurance companies, they killed it. They did amazing. Saved millions and billions of dollars. And therefore, because these insurance companies saved money, guess who also got part of that money? The ACOs. It is a shared savings plan, MSSP, Medicare Shared Savings Plan or Program, MSSP. How much? Well, in 2020, I just kind of looked up a couple of these stats here. 2020, it was close to net $7 billion. $7 billion. And that's just crazy. Gross, after they shared, that looks like about 1.5 billion, 4.5 billion saved gross and 1.5 billion net. So they did pass these shared savings down to the insurance companies. So this all happened during COVID, and everybody's feeling great. They're like, oh man, we got all these ACO contracts. They're great. We're winning every single year. We win, we get more money. Let's sign up everybody. So they start signing up everybody, and all of a sudden we get to this last year, 2022. COVID kind of comes to an abrupt end in January of last year, February. It's still going on, don't get me wrong, but most of the expenditures were pretty much done by then. And we actually have people coming back to the doctor in 2022. It's great for business. We finally get to see those patients again. However, we start spending money again. We start spending Medicare dollars again, commercial insurance dollars again. We start sending people back for tests, back for procedures. All the ORs are opened up. Everybody's ready. And society needs to get back to that. It's a wonderful thing. But we end up with patients spending money. So now the drift between these savings gets less and less and less and less and less. And we had a problem that we just learned a few months ago, that our shared savings contract that we had, it failed. In 2022, it did not meet the measures that it needed to meet. And so we aren't going to get a check this year. And that hurts. So doctors who sign these contracts, clinics that sign these contracts, they bring all these clinics together, and they say, hey, we're going to form this unit, this accountable care organization. And everyone's expected to pull their weight. You have to do your care gap measure closures. You have to do your annual wellness visits. You have to do your transitions care, all these extra responsibilities that are on the doctor to say, hey, we gotta do these things, and don't get incentivized to do it, which is another great point. And so you got to bring all these things together. And when one person doesn't bring their weight to the table, your contract says that they need to, but they don't, then all of you don't get the shared savings. And that's the problem. So you've spent all this time, all this energy, all this effort, and there's no money to gain it. So it's slim picking out there, Medicare, slim picking. So you got to get the money while you can. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's, really good insight into just how the world of medicine works. And, like you said, I bet you 95% of people on this webinar don't even really understand, what goes on in the back end. I didn't before I started looking into it. Really, we're not taught it in med school. We're not taught it in residency. We're not taught how to look at these contracts. We're not taught how to look at our contracts with hospitals, with our contracts with insurance companies. That's really what we want to get across in this webinar, is that you get into a contract catastrophe by not knowing. And we really, as physicians, and I don't want to speak for everyone on the call, but we really don't know. And I think a lot of people that do know and do understand the system take advantage of that. That's one of the reasons we formed DocNation, was to give you someone on your side of the team that can look at this stuff, understand it, and help you out to fight the big bag dogs that are coming down against you. I mean, that's the kind of stuff where you got to get those things written out beforehand, or at least get a better negotiating in the middle. And the hard thing is, once the contract's out, it's hard to get through. And now, even though Reed and Justin can attest to this, we have taken some people's contracts even in the middle of the contract and be able to renegotiate.
Yes.
Because it's almost so bad that when we bring our negotiators in there, they say the hospitals kind of give back, and they just don't expect the doc to ever look back at it. We kind of just sign these contracts. I always joke that we're given these contracts. We ask our friend who's a lawyer to look at it for us. They look at it real quick. We go back in and negotiate ourselves. And then they give no concessions, or maybe one small concession here, and then we sign a contract, and we're stuck in these, you're stuck in a contract for 3 to 5 years. It really isn't how it should be done. It's a big part of our lives. We've made a huge investment, and we really should have somebody looking out for us. And, that's really the point of DocNation. I always said, athletes would never negotiate or sign their own contracts with anyone. Let's say it's just your regular contract for your hospital. So that'd be like you signing up with your team. But then there's endorsement contracts that your agents look at you for. And, there's speaking engagements that your agents look at you for. It's kind of insane to think that we sign these contracts by ourselves and dive into these contracts by ourselves. And it's just because we don't know any better. It's not like any of us think we're making a bad move.
Well, I have a nice little experience here on this real quick. We had a meeting today, one of our meetings today. She came to the meeting and she said, well, the staffing company that brought us together is one of the largest staffing companies in the country. And there's 6 of us running the NICU, and the staffing company went bankrupt. You'll see that in the news, went bankrupt. And she said, so we all don't know what we're going to do. By the way, she's getting paid based on our data. That is the real data. She's getting underpaid by $100,000 a year, and sometimes working 70, 80 hours a week. And she's wondering, well, they told me that this is the boilerplate contract that everyone gets, so that's what you're going to get. And you know what happens? The doctor, which I asked her what she said. She said, well, okay.
Just signed it.
Well, why would you ever pay anybody any more or change anything in a contract when all you got to do is say one thing and it's an okay?
Yeah.
Right.
So Anthony, in your opinion, why do doctors think that when they ask for something and they come back with no changes or minor changes?
Good point.
Why do doctors just say, okay? What do you think it is?
And listen, the people that go into medicine I busting on my financial friends and lawyer friends. We could have done that. The reason we went into medicine is really we wanted to help people. We don't like confrontation. I think most of us don't. We don't like to think we're taking more out of the pot than we're putting in, right? I don't want to say we're martyrs. It's not that far, but sometimes we act like that. We don't like that confrontation and we don't want to fight back. And, we're not really asking, I don't think doctors ever do want to fight back or should be fighting back. I think doctors should take the high ground. For me with DocNation, it's the doctor isn't fighting back anymore. It's the lawyers and the negotiators of DocNation fighting back. And that always, you could always say if things don't go well in the negotiation, which they don't always, right? Things might get a little heated. They should. If they don't get a little heated, then you're probably not negotiating hard enough. You could always say, hey, that was my negotiator. That was my lawyer. I'm sorry. And you have to be able to pull yourself out of that situation because you don't want to be negotiating with the CEO of your hospital or negotiating with an insurance company and then have to work with them if things go sour. And Justin, to answer your question, though, the reason is we just don't like confrontation. Most physicians don't want confrontation. We don't really know our worth. I think that's a second part. We don't understand how much we're really worth. We always talk about that pie, that physicians only get 9% of the pie. So
hey, let's do a comms check. We have somebody say they lost audio. Let's make sure. Can we get anyone else to raise their hand? Is the audio working for you, or is it just that one person that mentioned no audio?
All the panelists can hear each other. So
okay.
Whoever said that, thank you very much.
So raising the hand means they can hear the audio or no?
If you can hear the audio.
Yeah, they can still hear.
We're good.
I can still hear you.
Okay.
We're good.
Aaron, I know we didn't really prep this ahead of time, but if maybe you could share, if not numbers, maybe percentages, and when this occurred, when was the conclusion of this round where you found out that this was not going to go well for you? And tell us about percentage or something. Give us some metric of some kind. You don't have to divulge all the details.
Hey, Beverly, thank you for the note. Justin, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. She said, I can hear you and I am glad. I just want to paint an overarching picture because we're going to be in the weeds. This webinar is going to be in the weeds. We got two doctors going back and forth, and that's how I want it. But DocNation is here to provide you something very, very simple. And I say this in every single meeting. You call one number. You want us to buy a car for you, sell a car for you, we'll do it. You want us to buy a house, sell a house for you, we'll do it. You want us to negotiate your contract, we'll do it. You want life insurance. So we're here to simplify your life, okay? We have a large company behind us that is going to help support that. We've been doing it for 15 years. But the ultimate goal of DocNation is to create influence. When you say something, it's heard, right? And so, to be honest with you, my whole life, I've not been a big union guy. That's not something that has rang true to me as a multi-time business owner. That has not rang true to me. But we've come to the conclusion after years and years and years of experience and research that this has to do two things. It has to go union and it has to go political, or we're not going to get the things done that we want. Justin and I have been doing private practice startup for years. And we thought, hey, let's get everybody away from the big hospital and let's help them start their own practice. We've gotten really, really good at that. But it's too slow. It's too slow. So I just wanted to bring a little clarity to the goal of DocNation. Now go back to jump back down in the weeds.
So I'd like to piggyback off that. This is about the members. I'm the physician that's, obviously involved in DocNation and was the first one in, but it's not about me. It's about the members. We're having a town hall on June 27th over Zoom, 8:30 Eastern time, June 27th. It's for all members that have signed up so far through the DocNation website. We really want to have people there, and we want to know what direction we can really go in. We have some ideas of where we can put the most pressure, and we know, we have some good insight, but this is only going to go as far as the members take it. And we do kind of do two things, right? Well, we're going to be that concierge service to each individual signature member. But if you don't need that service, it's still worth it to sign up and just be a member of the nation in order to help push. We want to hear you at the town hall, hear what your ideas are. Where should we advocate? Should we fight insurance companies? Should we fight hospitals? Should we just advocate in general for physicians to join up together? You know, what really should we be pushing towards? And I see Betsy there just put the link in the webinar chat to join. It really, this town hall is going to be the first time that we're getting all the members of the nation together. It's a new, you know, it's a new concept we're going to have where we get all the members together. Everyone will be on screen. We're not going to have people, you know, we're not going to have panelists, and we're going to chat about what we can do to avoid situations and also to just make it better, make it more fair for physicians, give us that autonomy back, know our value. So I'm excited.
This is what I want to do with it's $500 a year membership, and it goes to a really good cause, but we're not just a nonprofit. We're not in this for a cause. What I want to be able to do, if you don't sign up for the signature members, is be a news station for you. And I know it's just grotesque for people to hear news, because it's grotesque for me to hear news. Like, holy cow, it's all garbage. But this is not. And what I want to be able to do at the town hall is I want 5 to 10 things information wise that we can go do research on for you guys outside of what we're already doing to update you, so that you can just work, and once a month you're going to get an update from us, measurements of whatever those may be, those question marks. So it's a $500 membership to join that. And your voice is heard. We want to fulfill those things. So you could go to work. You go to work, and once a month you get an update from us answering the questions that you want answered, because you don't want to spend the time researching that stuff. So back to down in the weeds, but I just wanted to create a little bit of clarity on that. This is not just a company. One company cannot do this. Like, this isn't just a group of 50 people that are going to create a union. We have to have buy-in. And if you heard the beginning of this webinar, you heard that I was just thankful for people's patience, because this has taken off faster than we were expecting. So it's working, it's happening, we're doing it. But we want to hear people at the town hall. So in June, it's going to be a town hall instead of a webinar. And we want to hear from everybody. I spoke with a lady today who has a lot to say, and she is sharp as a tack. She is quickly becoming one of my favorite humans. And we may need to make it longer than an hour, because I don't want people to feel rushed, but I do want people to grab up. Hey, I need the mic. Give me 5 to 10 minutes. Let me talk about this. So there's going to be a lot going on there.
I think that's good.
So
Grace has some questions coming in too.
yeah. So Aaron, let's go back though, because you were talking about how many physicians have heard of these things, but they don't really know what they are. They might even be a part of one and not know it. And you explained it, but it's not just a super simple setup. It's not a super simple structure. So if somebody else were to put themselves in your shoes and they were you and they experienced what you experienced, what if we could go backwards from the end result? And then, because you told the story kind of at the beginning of what it was, you did all these things, but the result was it didn't go well. What didn't go well? Like, what didn't happen that was supposed to happen in some sort of a defined way? And let's kind of build back up from there.
Absolutely. So most people don't know that they're in an ACO if they already are, especially if you're hospital employed. And it's something that you really need to ask when you are interviewing, when you're going to get that job interview, you're ready to sign a contract. You need to stop and say, hey, are you guys part of an ACO? Do you have any value-based contracting? And so just the high level of what it can bring is definitely huge payouts with money. So for instance, for the year 2021, we had a payout at the end of 2022, just for my little clinic in Marion of like $120,000. That's huge. That's big money to a little clinic. And, at that time we were only measuring about 3 providers. Now we're going to be measuring about 10.
So this was 2021 and it paid in 2022.
That's correct. So now the 2022 measures have not been met. 2023 is not going to see that payout. And so we're discouraged by that. So it's, we were counting on budgeting on getting at least that, if not way more for the That's money that I'm going to be was planning on using to dole out physician bonuses, provider bonuses, Christmas bonuses, maybe at the end of the year for really awesome staff. And so we budget for those things, and we're not going to get that money now. So how does that money determined? Well, however much is saved by these insurance companies, they share those savings with you. And there's different percentages based on your contract, just say 50%. After expenses are paid to the ACO for administration, overhead, et cetera, the rest of the money is doled out to all the different members in that ACO. I do see a question right here that one person wanted to know if that an ACO, if it's just for employed physicians or not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Private physicians can be in it. It is the company that is actually in the ACO to which you're privately in. And so the other hospital system that was in this, they got a couple of million. That's huge for them. They got to take that home from their shared savings, and it's literally a check that comes to your door and says, hey, take this money, use it. You did a great job. You saved us money from the insurance standpoint, then they give the money back to you.
And then your team was a set of providers that was one of, a bunch of different providers.
Correct.
And you had your performance and the weight you were pulling versus the others. Can you talk a little bit about that as well in terms of,
Absolutely.
did you do what needed to be done to hit it, or did your team not make it?
That's where the catastrophe comes from. Our team made it. Our team went well and above the measures that says that we did our part. Now the catastrophe comes from, what if someone else doesn't? And that happened to us. In fact, the major hospital system in the area that works with us, they're the ones that dropped the ball. They didn't meet the measures. And because they have the most lives under management and the most lives within the ACO, they brought the rest of all the other private clinics to the ground. We all got burned. Every single one of us is not going to get that big, huge, fat bonus check that
Which collectively could be how much of those that did hit their targets?
Shoot, I don't know, several $100,000.
Yeah.
$500,000 maybe. And so all of that is important for people to understand. So when you're looking at these things and you're thinking about, man, I want to go work for this company, or I already work for this hospital, you do need to ask some of those big, important questions. Hey, do we have an ACO? How did it perform? If we do have an ACO, how did it perform? How'd you guys do over the last 2 years? Well, almost everyone got a shared savings check because of COVID. We'll see about 2022. I would ask that question. I would say, who is in charge of the ACO? Who owns it? Most of these are private nonprofit companies that just own these things. Many ACOs are formed by hospital systems alone. You'll also see these large group independent practices with maybe 30 doctors. They'll form their own ACO. So I would ask that, who owns this thing? Next is, can I have a seat at the table of decision making? That's extremely important. Physicians need to know that the incentives that are possibly there to get, that they're involved in those decisions, and how to get that money back. That's huge. Finally, what is the shared savings distribution formula? I want to know right now, if I do all this work, what am I going to get?
Yeah.
Which brings us to a very important point. We can talk about physician compensation all day long. You guys are pros at it. I think that's amazing. I've heard some awesome stories about that, but there is no major physician compensation model that exists right now that I know of that can sit and incentivize all the different things that an ACO requires. It's so vast and it's so hard to measure that it's virtually impossible. In fact, this large hospital system even reached out to me. And they said, well, how do you pay your doctors that work for you? Well, that's a great question. Right now, I'm just like, most of America, We have a base compensation with a work-related RVU. Many people are doing that right now.
Yeah.
And the only reason I haven't done the whole incentive compensation is because I don't know how. I don't know how. So I'm going to be relying on the expertise of DocNation, the guidance there. We're going to be meeting lots over the next few months, and we're going to try to come up with a plan to say, how do we take value-based care and really reward the doctors that do the hard work?
I can't wait.
So that's what I'm ready to do.
Yeah, we have a lot of experience that I can't wait for that. You did a lot. I don't know if you're seeing these questions, but you're getting close to almost nailing all of them. Teresa, thank you for your question. It's really, really on point. She asked, almost sounds like the reverse RVU system. I like the way I like how she put that. Does it similarly tend to be a moving goalpost? Question mark. Is there transparency to see the performance of the ACO throughout the year?
Absolutely. And there has to be some definite takeaway points are, hindsight's 2020. But if we all knew that we weren't really meeting those measures of the ACO throughout the year, we would have been a lot more aggressive, especially towards the entity that did not meet the goals and objectives and drop the ball and cost everybody to lose the money.
So to Anthony's point, though, the non-confrontational group that you are, tell me how you go about that. Really, tell me how you go about that.
Yeah, you just gotta get in there and roll up your
phone calls. There's some phone calls.
This is your contract right here. This is the contract. I signed this contract. You signed. It is the same contract. You've got to get in there and say, here we are. What have you done to fulfill your obligation? And what have you not done? And so there's support. A lot of these ACOs have amazing support if you use them. They have third-party firms, some awesome third-party firms out there that come in and they will essentially run your ACO for you. Lots of them out there on the internet. You can Google it.
Aaron, that's why I like in your bio, you talked about leadership, because, everyone wants leadership to be, I'm Santa Claus and I hand out things and I just you get whatever you want. That's not what leadership is. Leadership is you're behind. And if you can catch up by doing this, this, and this, you can have this, and so can the rest of us. So I really like your bio. I know you could have done about 3 or 4 pages with other accolades and other things like that. I appreciate your humility. I appreciate how genuine you were with that bio. I know you better than that. I know there's a lot more things. So thank you for that. Let's go to another question. Hey, what is your view on locums? I think it may go freedom from administration as well as financial freedom, comparing to large academic corporation.
I want to take that. So my view on locums is it's great for the individual with the locum. But why all of a sudden there's all this money to pay locums if there's not money to pay the original hospital staff? And locums, I actually think, hurt the system in the long run, because it's kind of like just plugging in a replacement player, if you will, without actually paying the players on the field. But for that replacement player, it's great. If you're able to move around. A lot of people can't move around like that and have the willingness to uproot and move around. But in the end, at least we're seeing it with the nurses system, right? The locum system's breaking the nurses kind of cohort, because a lady that's or a guy or a girl that's been working there for 20 years is getting paid X amount an hour, and some that is coming in for a 3-month stint as a locum is getting paid 4X right next to them. And that person that's new doesn't even know the system, is asking the other person for help the whole time while they're getting paid 1/4 of what they are. So I think locums are a way for hospitals to throw their fingers in the dam, when in reality, all of a sudden, this is what I always wondered this about locums. Like, all of a sudden there's all this money to give out. Where was that? Why don't you just give it to your staff that didn't quit and didn't leave? So on one end, locums are great for the individual. On the other end, I think we should just push for that kind of money, that kind of look, for the staff that's there. That's what I think about locums.
That's a good point. Thanks for answering that. Let's go to McCullough. What is your view on? Oh no, that's the wrong one.
You just read
that. I
There was
lost it.
one, there was one earlier that was asking about clarifying the ACO. You already kind of did that, but there was also a follow-up. in that
Well,
same- Well, but there's a follow-up that says, when you went to private practice, did you take a
Yes.
haircut? How did you, that transition, what did you experience? Is there life in private practice? Is there really a
Money.
way? Yeah,
Money.
is there a way to make that work?
And so, yeah, I just answered that to Grant. I think everybody might be able to see it,
Oh,
but
okay.
I appreciate
right.
Grant sending that
Oh, did
question.
you? Why? I can't see him either, Betsy.
Yeah, it's because he
It's
answered
under
it. so
the, it's
not
under
popped
the
over.
answer. It's under answered. Yeah, I think that's a great answer.
There's absolutely money in private practice. In fact, I think I got the shaft working for a major hospital system, and I did really well. You know, I still made, I think I made like 11,000 RVUs that year, and still, you know, killed it in terms of the rest of their doctors. I was like the top 10% of production for the hospital as a primary care doctor, and I'm still making 3 to 4 times as much as a private doctor. So yeah, the potential payoffs are huge. What I love about it is just being independent. There's no big administration over you to tell you what you got to do. If you need to hire a nurse, you go out and get yourself a nurse. I love that. I love that. If someone's not acting right, you can, you know, kick them to the
Yeah.
curb.
A
Respect.
lot more autonomy. And I love what you said at the end there. Really, DocNation, like people are always like, oh, I don't, what can you do for me? I can't negotiate my contract. I mean, we set up private practices. That's right in our wheelhouse. People, we try to decrease that chasm of thinking going from, employed to private practice. Some people think it's impossible. Obviously, Aaron did it on his own. Kudos to him. But we really start to lay out the groundwork for you and make it so that you can do it. Not only do it, but be extremely successful very quickly. Listen, I think I'm a big component of private practice. If you can do it, do it.
I had a meeting early this week, and late last week. And there's a non-compete blocking this individual from going to one other hospital because that's her specialty. She can't go anywhere else, but she can start her own private practice. And so right now we're having conversations. We're talking her through it. It's a leap of faith. It's a leap of faith. When you start your own business, and you don't have a business background, it's a leap of faith. There's some risk involved, and the whole goal is for us to minimize that risk in a significant way. We've been doing it for a while.
I've loved every minute of it. Would never go back. I would never go back. And it's not just, it really isn't. The quality of life, I can arrange my schedule how I want to. I get to spend as much time with my family as I want to. I can work as much as I want or as little as I want. I know that the money's almost always there. In terms of the ACO, it would be really nice this year to have that money.
So you kicked this thing off, Aaron, with the contract catastrophe, and I'm wondering, it worked in 2020, like the COVID year, it worked, like the year after, kind of the aftermath of it. But in a normal year, it's not working out so well. So is there something inherently flawed with the design? Do you think it's intentional? Is this something that they just need to realign some of the pieces that are being measured, or what would you see would be the pathway to continue to provide what it meant to provide in a more normalized environment?
Well, what we learned through the contract, unfortunately, the contract states that you need to basically hold up your end of the bargain. But after learning so many different things and having many meetings with the hospital system that dropped the ball, we learned that they hadn't even divulged to their doctors that there was an ACO that they were a part of. They had 64 doctors. They had no idea. And they were hiring doctors, every month. Come work for us. We're huge. We're awesome.
Yeah.
And these doctors are signing on, and they don't even know.
So that means they're probably the trickle down, the ACO money isn't trickling down to the docs. The hospital system probably gets that money. And
so how many different people were not informed that somebody along the way should have informed them, and it would have turned this whole thing around?
Absolutely. So they have meetings throughout the year. They had meetings upon meetings. They had meetings about meetings, but no one did the work. And that was the problem. That was the problem. And who does the work so the ACO gets money? Doctors.
Yeah.
Doctors. Yeah. And so the doctors have to be in the know. They were not in the know. They were not disclosed what they had to do. Therefore, unfortunately, none of the measures were really met in an aggressive way enough to get the incentive pay.
So where are you at in trajectory for this year?
Hopefully doing pretty good. You know, our clinic, strong as ever, nailing it every single month. I'm looking at our stats. I'm following with our stats. I meet with the third-party vendor that helps us on a monthly basis. They keep us on track, and that's what they do. Unfortunately, for the hospital system that's in there, they might make it by the end of the year. I'm really hopeful that they do, but they just disclosed all of this literally about 2 weeks ago to all their doctors. And so now we have 6 to 7 months to try to turn this ship around, get 12,000 lives under management to finally, you know, meet our care gaps. And hopefully we can turn around for the year. I think it's possible. If not, then 2023 is going to be a wash. We won't see any incentive pay next year either.
Aaron, I gotta say, I'm slightly discouraged when I think about joining an ACO if I'm a doctor. There seems like no continuity. There seems like no leadership. You're working your butt off. Your company is working their butts off. But you're lending it out to people you don't even know, that you're not communicating with. There ought to be a once a month required meeting so that the whole team is on the same page. I think like an athlete, because I was an athlete for my whole life. And I'm thinking, man, if you're not in the huddle, then you're not going to do the play. And we do it every 2 minutes. So touch on that a little bit for me. How frustrating is that? You do your job, but the hospital's not doing their job and you don't get paid. And now we're seeing that again this year. I mean, how many years can you do that and not take care of your people the way you want to take care of your people?
Absolutely. So there's lots to think about. And here's the kind of sad part is you have to have an action plan. You don't have an action plan, you're going to fail here. So we're happy to say that the ACO has now developed that action plan with this hospital. So we're happy to say that they are trying to choose in a very aggressive pathway for the rest of the year. And we've outlined that, and we now have monthly meetings and sometimes even bi-weekly meetings to meet with the hospital system to get them going. I think the biggest, funniest factor that I find in all of this is they reached out to me. Hospital system who has 5 hospitals, 64 primary care providers. They called me and they said, how do you do it? How do you do all of this? And I wanted to send them a bill, but I didn't.
Yes, I love that, because Justin and I are thinking about that, having represented doctors and they've been negotiating and reviewing contracts for 15 years. We're not surprised.
Okay.
We're not surprised. There's a lack of leadership. There's a lack of experience at that level that you possess, but maybe they don't possess. I'm not surprised that they ask you. That's not surprising at all. So, but it's also not good news. It's also concerning, because people aren't getting paid what they should get paid for the last 380 days because of that. I don't like handing over leverage to other people who aren't in the huddle. So there's a lot of work to be done. We're here to do that. We're glad to be here to do that with you.
There's always room for amendments and catch up.
Yep.
There's some true ups that can happen. There's some things that can be done to
retrospect
address issues that were not properly allocated. It's possible.
Yep. We've seen that.
Awesome.
So there's a follow-up question here. I don't know if you saw this one, Aaron, but for interventional specialties, can you talk about ACOs from as far as what your experience or exposure to the way that it impacts them or helps or hurts them?
Sure. I'll talk just a little bit about it. ACOs were originally made for the primary care model. And so interventionalists, people that are in specialty care, I'll tell you how it impacts the ACO, but in general, most of their care is not centered around the incentivizations of the ACO. It's just not. And so they built the ACO model really around the shared savings with 33 quality measures that they want us to meet. And that's kind of how it started. And if you think about that, man, a doctor comes into it and they get hit with a big, huge list and they go, we need to meet these 33 things. And if we don't do it, you're not going to get paid very well. Yeah. And there's all sorts of stuff on this, everything from diabetes care to hypertensive care, but also things like, did you have a good patient experience with your doctor? Patient experience is a big part of that as well. So, but in terms of what I can offer to specialists, what you put in a chart as a diagnosis actually matters. We want to see the most highly complex diagnosis that you can come up with, because it makes a difference. The risk score of a patient, if you're not familiar, we can save it for another time, but the risk score of a patient matters. If that patient is risky, if they have a lot of disease processes that are very severe, then the insurance companies, specifically Medicare, will save money aside for that patient and allocate those funds for that patient as they make their budget. And if you don't, it's going to assume that that patient is just fine. There's a big, big difference between a person who has a severely uncontrolled diabetes with kidney disease and polyneuropathy and retinopathy and all sorts of problems, and someone who goes to an ER and the ER doctor puts diabetes unspecified. It's a huge difference there. And what do you think that insurance is going to take? We're going to say, oh, we're going to take that diabetes unspecified. That's nothing. And so, we want to see these highly complex diagnoses. And that's the biggest drift I think we see between primary care and specialists in terms of their diagnosis coding. They're just wanting to get something on the chart, yet primary care is we have to get those the most specific that we can.
That's great.
So it sounds like there's more dollars potentially, or you're saying the system is managed better once that code is more precise or is more, like you said, risky.
So the savings are much better, because if Medicare allocates $100,000 for that patient based on risky codes, and we only spend $50,000, it's $50,000 savings right there. And we're going to share in those savings. If the diagnoses are simple, then they're going to say, hey, we're only going to allocate $10,000 for this patient. Yet you spend 50. There is no savings between that. And so you'll lose money on that deal. So we need all of our specialists to realize that their coding 100% matters when it gets sent over to the insurance companies, and they have got to put in the highest level of diagnosis for that patient.
I think
That's a really good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. Hey, one of the things that we haven't done in the past webinars that has been a mistake is we welcome all questions for our star of the show, Aaron, for the next month. And so I've had people reach out to me about asking questions from someone else, and I love it. I love it. We want to deflect. We want this to be a group effort. So if you guys have any questions for Dr. Mitchell throughout the next 30 days, please just email us. Aaron's going to be nice enough to, I'll compile them and send them to him every Thursday or Friday. I'll have him answer them. Aaron, I'm already, you're going to do it for us. Thanks, buddy. So we just have had a lot of questions. It's been a little bit of a lack of communication. So I want to get those answered once a week. Any closing statements? I think you've really cleared this up. You've brought a lot of education. We got a new message. What do we got? No questions.
Last thing I'd like to say is just plug the town hall again. I'm really excited to get that going.
Yep.
Get the doctors' voices together and really start working towards an end goal here of how to change this, because it's quickly going in the wrong direction for a lot of docs out there, and we got to make sure the hole doesn't get too deep where we can't get out of it. That's only going to happen with your participation out there. You got to get active. You got to do something, or else it's just going to spiral downhill, and insurance companies will keep making money hand over fist. Hospitals are going to be doing their thing. So really, the docs need to speak up. We need to have a voice, and we need to come together. So like I said, June 27th, we're all going to come together and talk and see what we can do. I'm excited for it.
Aaron, thanks for joining us this evening. Thank you for all that you do in your community with your business and
Yeah.
the way that you are being a leader in your community. The fact that they're coming to you and asking you for your leadership is so
Not a
powerful.
surprise.
And yeah, I can't wait to dig into that more and what doors are going to open for that. And it's an example for anybody who's tuning in and for others that will listen to this later on, that they can also get into that place and bring about change. And so you can do it on an individual level, but you can also do it collectively with us. And so just tell us what your concerns are. Tell us what the pain points are. What are the issues? What are the obstacles that you're facing? Tell us about them so we can go to work and start addressing those issues. Let us get over those obstacles for you.
Yeah, this is a group effort, and we can't do this without people like you, Aaron. So we're grateful for you, man. We appreciate you stopping on the side of the road with your family in the RV last week. But this is what it takes, and we're here to fight for you. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, and there's a lot of fights to be picked until we get this leveled out. The landscape of medicine is completely jacked up right now, and we need to get it back to where it's at. And so please join the nation, and let's do that together. Aaron, thanks for your time, man. Tell your family thank you for letting us have your evening tonight.
Pleasure.
Awesome,
Thank you,
man.
everybody.
Thanks, man.
Okay.
See you
All
guys.
right. Bye.
Chat soon. Bye.